The King Arthur origin story starring the leader of an outlaw motorcycle club and directed and partly written by the guy who did Snatch and Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels? That sounds just mental enough that it might actually work. King Arthur Legend of the Sword is another reimagining of Arthurian legend, only this time it's directed by Guy Ritchie, so he's a right geezer! Don't go in expecting anything even remotely historically accurate, as this is an Arthur that calls a dude honey tits before taking him on in a fist fight, and addresses a bunch of other leaders by saying there isn't a bollock amongst you. Ritchie's Arthur is one who's grown up rough on the streets of Londinium, unaware of his royal lineage, being raised by prostitutes, and becoming a pretty good pickpocket and street brawler, as well as... Is he a pimp? I feel like that's something you definitely want to clarify either way, which all sounds a bit Monty Python when you think of it, and yeah, there were definitely points when I was expecting them to ride by on coconuts. Especially when it flashes up the word Camelot on screen, because if you can hear that word without immediately thinking, "'tis a silly place," then you, my friend, are a much better person than I am. Arthur eventually pulls the magical sword Excalibur from a hunk of stone and must embrace its magical powers if he's to fight his way to his rightful place on the throne, even if that does get in the way of his currently pretty cushy lifestyle. Charlie Hunnam is this incarnation of Arthur and brings the right amount of swagger and roguish charm, and as I said before, Sons of Anarchy, bloody love it, so stick Charlie Hunnam in anything and I'll go see it. Hell, if he'd went through with being Mr. 50 Shades of Grey or whoever he's called, I probably would have went to see that. Actually, that's still not true. I liked him a lot in this and he felt like a good fit for the brawler who would be king. It seemed like a very Charlie Hunnam role, proven not least of which by the fact that he literally offered to Guy Ritchie to fight Henry Cavill and Jai Courtney, who were the other two finalists for the role. I'm sorry, but can you imagine how bad this film would be with Jai Courtney in the lead role? He does that thing he seems to do in every role where he just can't decide what accent to go for, although he seems to be like that in real life anyway. But where he has done the work is in the body. This is one of those films that's just going to make you feel bad about your life choices. I don't think if King Arthur was ever a real dude, at any point in history would he have looked like a Men's Health cover model, but who's complaining? Even if this movie did make me think, damn, I need to get in shape. Charlie Hunnam said he did 1,000 push-ups a day, every day, for 6 months, and if that's what it takes to get in shape, I am very happy being more King Kong than King Arthur. The rest of the cast is a good mix of recognisable character actors, including Bana and Jude Law, who brings a suitable level of pantomime duplicity as Arthur's evil uncle King Vortigern. We also get the likes of Djimon, Hounsou, Aidan, Gillen and Maskell, who may or may not go on to be the Knights of the Round Table, although no word on whether or not they dance whenever they're able or do routines and choruses with footwork impeccable. But someone who does bring things down a little bit is Astrid Bergès-Frisbey, who plays the mage. Now, I don't know if this was a character choice or simply bad acting, but she is so monotone. It is bad, but not as bad is David Beckham. Yeah, Bex is in this. That wasn't just a Man from U.N.C.L.E. thing. He should probably stick to those adverts where he runs around in his pants, because he is so devoid of personality. He might as well have played the rock that the sword gets stuck in. Now, on its own, that would have been fine, but what was really annoying is that his cameo appears at a really pivotal moment in the plot, and it threatens to overshadow what you should really be focusing on. Guy Ritchie's a bit of a Marmite director, but I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't a fan of his. I genuinely like his whip-smart, hyper-kinetic style, and it's worked really well in the past for gangster flicks and Sherlock Holmes, but how would that work for a medieval fairy tale, I wondered? Quite well, it turns out. It's still got that signature Guy Ritchie style. We have rapid montages with snappy dialogue. Characters don't seem to be able to talk to each other without ending every sentence with the name of the person that they're talking to, and even in medieval times, every character has funky nicknames. Prime example, there's a Chinese guy called Kung Fu George. He is the local martial arts master, but are we allowed to call him that? I know BuzzFeed didn't exist back then, but even still, the cinematography and production design were excellent, which goes a long way to helping Ritchie sell his bonkers vision, because there's definitely points where this gets absurd. For me, it slowed right down when they start involving magic and shit. I'd much rather be focused on the young, streetwise, brawling Arthur rather than the warrior and training stage. But Ritchie lays enough groundwork in the first act that when it does slow down, you're still there with it. But when the pace is up, oh, it's up. There's a chase sequence in this which I promise you made for a better Assassin's Creed movie than the actual Assassin's Creed movie, and that is exactly what I wanted to see. However, when there's all sorts of magic and spells and stuff going on, that's when it lost me, especially when when some of the CGI looked like it was straight out of a video game. There's a long take fight scene with what is very obviously a fully CG Charlie Hunnam, which sure, it was a cool scene, but that was very distracting. There are points where you'd swear this was directed by Zack Snyder, not Guy Ritchie. This movie is trying so hard to be ultra modern, and it keeps reminding you of that right down to the poster. They went for that desaturated, high contrast, words in a face poster that seems to be all the rage these days, even though it tells you absolutely nothing about the film. Thumbnail! And if the poster wasn't enough to convince you this is a cool, gritty, urban take that the youths are going to love, there's entire scenes that look like they were colour graded by a smurf. Overall, this movie is often a great example of style over substance, but it's still highly enjoyable, and I think the reviews are going to be quite harsh for that exact reason. It does sometimes feel like it's skimping out on story for the benefit of a good looking scene, and that can make the story quite generic, especially in the cases where a montage is used to zip through a sequence that could easily have been expanded on. But then again, how creative do you really need to be with an origin story that we're already familiar with that's clearly supposed to set up a franchise? This movie is whatever the word for the opposite of subtle is, but maybe it's because I went in with really low expectations. I actually quite enjoyed it. I'm gonna give King Arthur leg end of the sword 3 popcorns, but like a high 3 popcorns. I'm still recommending it. Also, just putting this out there, I know that Guy Ritchie is currently busy with development for Disney's live action Aladdin, but when it comes time for Suicide Squad 3, if Guy Ritchie's free, he could be a perfect fit for that. Thanks for watching my review of King Arthur Legend of the Sword. If you like this video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. And if you could share this video with a friend, that would be a massive, massive help. You can click the boxes below to see some of my latest videos, but again, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.